You're watching KCRA3, where the news comes first. Now, KCRA3 reports at 6:30.
In the words of Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger, it is another cracked pillar in California's crumbling infrastructure, a prison system bursting at the seams. Just last week, a federal inspector accused the governor's administration of retreating, backpedaling from prison reform.
Tonight, the governor has called for a special session of the legislature to deal with the problem. In one respect, it's as simple as this. The California prison system was designed for about 100,000 inmates, and as of last week, the total number of inmates in state prisons surpassed 171,000. Speaking today, the governor warned that without changes, the courts may take over the California prison system and order the release of tens of thousands of prisoners. Part of his solution, an extension of his infrastructure plan, the construction of more prison space.
California has authorized and built just one prison in the last 10 years. One prison in the last 10 years. And with tougher sentencing and state population increasing to 37 million, our prisons are dangerously overcrowded right now.
His reform strategy, 2 more bond-funded prisons. Cutting bureaucratic red tape to speed up prison spending and reform, transferring 4,500 low-risk women inmates in community facilities, and greater use of so-called reentry facilities. That would mean some inmates would spend the final 90 days of their sentence in centers that provide counseling.
Well, that plan drew an immediate response from the Democratic candidate for governor, Phil Angelides. The Democratic candidate called Schwarzenegger's handling of the prison system a disaster, and his latest plan an election year political.
The prison system is grossly understaffed by at least 3,000 personnel. And the fact is that California can't adequately staff even existing prisons, let alone the new facilities and capacity we need.
Angelides also criticized the governor's infrastructure plan, which he says includes no additional prison spending until the year 2015. And joining us now is Lance Corcoran. He is a spokesman for the California Correction Peace Officers Association. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
I would assume that you would be pleased the governor is calling a special session, in that would mean more prisons and the hiring of more corrections officers.
Well, certainly we're happy that the administration is focusing on the crisis that we're facing. 172,000 inmates, 16,000 of which are currently being housed in gymnasiums and day rooms, and in some cases outside. And that is a crisis situation not only for the inmate population but also for the staff. But the notion that we're happy to get more prisons, I think we're much like other Californians. We'd rather see that money spent in other ways, but that's just not reality.
Yet at the same time, that does provide more overtime for corrections officers here in California, which in some cases they can make, what, more than $100,000 a year given overtime.
We had more than 2,000 officers, unfortunately, make over $100,000 last year, but that's time spent in a California prison that they would prefer to spend with their families. And the long and short of it is that there are staff that do appreciate overtime, but the vast majority want to go home to their families, and they're exhausted. As Mr. Angelides said, we have over 3,000 vacancies. This is not a good situation in California. It is a prescription for disaster, and we are somewhat satisfied that at least it's getting some focus. Whether or not there'll be any resolution is this is way too early to try to predict the outcome.
The union gets a lot of criticism for undue political influence. That was mentioned by a former director who cited lack of support from the administration. And of course, the federal master who has issued this report is also very critical of the system and of the union. And here's what the California Bureau of State Audits had to say. Corrections is the worst department in California, the worst run with the sweetest contracts. Their job requirements are the softest, and their abuse of rules and overtime is the grossest. It could be argued here, I guess, that the organization is not contributing to reform or solutions to these problems.
Well, and I think that's an uninformed opinion. I would say that the folks over at the Bureau of State Audits need to take off their pocket protector and maybe come work a tier and see what it's really like. The reality is this organization, the California Correctional Peace Officers Association, has been the leading voice in prison reform. We've advocated for more stringent standards for correctional officers, longer academies, background investigations, drug testing, and psychological screening. I don't know what more we can do. We've worked positively with outside entities, whether it be college educations to drug treatment. We have been at the forefront, and we are a labor union. We are not the management team.
Well, that's not what the critics say about you. They, in fact, charge that, well, this federal master says the code of silence as has a new lease on life now, and they, of course, charge that you guys intimidate staff to enforce that.
Well, I'm well aware of what the critics say about us. Unfortunately, I live with that each and every day, and I have to face my own family based on what I read in the newspapers and what I hear on radio and television. It is grossly wrong. It is unfair. We are a convenient foil, and it will continue to happen like that until we get the ability to get our message out. I mean, look at our track record. We've been successful again in all of the reforms that I've previously mentioned. And that success has brought some contempt and some resentment from people. But we do not apologize for our successes, and nor should we. Actually, I find it shocking that the management team isn't here tonight defending this proposal or talking about this proposal. Is it because they're too afraid? I mean, we have never been silent about anything, and if anything, it has been our leadership that has been willing to step forward and say these are the dark sides, these are the bad sides of corrections.
Mr. Corcoran, Lance Corcoran of the California Correctional Peace Officers Association, thanks so much for being with us this evening. And that, of course, brings us to our KCRA.com survey question of the day. Do you support Governor Schwarzenegger's plan for 2 additional prisons? So far, 40% of you say you do, 32% don't like the idea, and 28% not quite sure yet. Still time for your vote. Log on and go to the local news page. You can also email us what you think about all this through a link in the results section of the survey.
Or you could text message your answer to KCRA3 Mobile, A, B, or C, and send your answer to KCRA3 or 52723, and we'll have updated results at the end of the newscast.
The other big story we're following today is California's troubled prison system. Today, Governor Schwarzenegger called the situation a crisis, and he's calling for a special session of the legislature to make it a top priority.
News 10's Marcy Brightwell is here with more on the governor's plan. Marcy.
Well, Governor Schwarzenegger has called prison reform a top priority of his administration. He even changed the prison system's name to the Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation, hoping to emphasize the need to reform and rehabilitate inmates. But his earlier reforms came under fire, and his last 2 prison directors abruptly quit. So today, the governor tried another approach.
The number of Californians behind bars has reached an unexpected historic high.
OG4!
171,000 inmates.
Any correction experts would tell you that this is a recipe for disaster.
The population surge has prison officials scrambling to find bed space. Inmates are being crammed into gymnasiums across the state, causing tensions to rise.
We're at critical mass. We have nowhere else to go. They're in gymnasiums, they're in day rooms. They're everywhere that we can place bodies, in many cases double and triple bunked.
A situation experts call unsafe for both inmates and staff. So with the courts threatening a takeover, Governor Schwarzenegger today called a special session of the legislature to deal with the problem.
Our prisons are at a crisis point right now because the state of California has not planned adequately for its future.
Schwarzenegger wants to build more prison cells and implement new programs to help paroled inmates successfully re-enter society. California's current prison system is a revolving door with the highest recidivism rate in the country. Reform advocates say improving programs inside prison will make the streets safer for everyone outside prison walls.
They're going to get out. The question begs, who do you want to get out? Do you want an individual who was given opportunities for change, or do you want an individual who simply learned how to be a better criminal? And when all we're doing is warehousing, you're getting the latter.
Well, the governor's 4-point plan calls for new prison construction, and he wants to create new community-based re-entry facilities to help parolees transition back into their homes. He also wants to send nearly 5,000 low-risk female inmates into less restrictive community-based programs, and he's calling on the legislature to expedite these plans. Lawmakers and prison reform advocates have mixed views about this latest plan. Many criticize the Schwarzenegger administration for waiting too long to address the issue, but they support the governor's efforts to help reduce recidivism rates, which are now about 70% in California.
Goodness. Wow. And trying to get everyone to agree, though, you've got the legislature, the governor, the corrections union, and then the bosses of the correction system that he has put into place. That 2 of them have said, "Heck with this," and quit.
Yeah, it's been a revolving door with prison directors too, and really the issue is both public safety and cost. The prison system is really one of the most expensive items on the state budget. It's now nearly $9 billion taxpayers spend to keep prisoners behind bars in California, and that just keeps escalating every year.
Wow. All right. Big problem. Thank you very much, Marcy. Well, candidate for governor Phil Angelides took the opportunity today to not only call the governor's actions politically motivated, but to lay out his own plan for the future of California prisons.
I will appoint new and strong managers to the Department of Correction and Rehabilitation. I'll immediately undertake a thorough review and audit of all the problems that exist within the department, and then I will put in place a long-term plan that absolutely assures adequate capacity so the public safety is protected.
Angelides also talked about meaningful rehabilitation that helps control the cost of maintaining all California